Ex-husband's fiancée babysits our kids for the first time. Their odd behavior leads to shocking truth, confrontation, and a life-changing fallout. I'm 28, female. My ex-husband Josh, 31, male, separated from me last year. We get along fine as there was no infidelity or anything, but when we had a miscarriage with our third child, we completely grew apart and lost touch with our ability to communicate. In essence, the divorce was mutual because we couldn't bear the pain that we felt when we saw each other. At first, we kind of blamed each other because it was the easier way to cope. Eventually, we were able to reconcile enough to have a reasonable co-parenting agreement. The issue that recently came up that I am asking for advice on is a situation that occurred with Joshua's new fiancée, Lola, 29, female. Josh recently told me that Lola really wants to embrace the role of stepmom and be an active part of our children's 3 male and 5 female lives. I was a bit hesitant at first because I barely knew her. They had only been dating for a few months, but I also didn't want to keep any loving adults from connecting with my kids. They are supposed to be spending about 20% of their time with her and my ex after all. Everything was going smoothly for a while, and when the kids would come back from their dads, they were happy, and it seemed that Lola was a good presence for them. They talked about how she would play their favorite games and help them bake some oatmeal cookies. It all sounded like normal activity for them to be doing together, and I was happy that things were going smoothly. The issue at hand started last weekend when I had to go out of town for a family wedding, while Josh had to go out of town for work. When Lola offered to watch the kids for the first time on her own, I was nervous but mostly pretty relieved. I didn't have anyone else to watch them since my family members were also going to be at the wedding, and my ex won't be in town. I dropped him off on Thursday and picked them up Sunday night. I was so exhausted when I got home that I put the kids straight to bed and passed out before talking to them about how their weekend was. The next day, the kids were acting a bit standoffish and seemed disinterested in me. This was especially weird because usually they are all over me to the point where I can't even go to the bathroom alone. I just chalked it up to the changing routine, or assumed that maybe they didn't sleep well the night prior. It all came to a head the next day when I decided to talk to my kids about how their weekend with Lola went. It was then that my daughter started tearing up and asked me why they don't spend as much time with their real mom as they do with me. I was completely caught off guard and asked her what she meant. She explained that Lola told them the truth, that she was their mom, and I was the one keeping them away from her and preventing them from being a complete family. Apparently, she even went as far as to force my kids to call her mommy all weekend long. They looked so confused and upset, and I still can't get their sad little faces out of my mind. I truly could not believe my ears and essentially saw red. I drove the kids to my parents' house and immediately called my ex-husband, asking him to meet. We met at a coffee shop near his work, and I explained the situation to him. At first, he seemed like he did not believe me or thought I was exaggerating. But after telling him about the kids calling her mom and other things that they said, he finally broke down. He said that Lola found out last month that she cannot have kids of her own, and ever since she got the news, that she has been out of control. He told me that at first, she was obsessed with the idea of adopting, but once she figured out how long it took and how difficult the process was, that she seemed like she gave up. Then she apparently began talking about his kids, and how they could be a complete and whole family if only I was not in the picture. He told me that she would refer to herself as mommy while never discussing anything about the kids, and while he claimed that he tried to shoot her down, she was supposedly relentless, and he found it easier to just ignore it. I told him that I no longer felt comfortable with her being around the kids, and that I would fight for sole custody unless he dealt with her somehow. He was clearly pissed at that comment, and stormed out of the shop. I didn't know what to do next, so in the heat of the moment, I decided to confront her myself about what she did. I drove to my ex's house and knocked on the door. She answered, and with a friendly smile, asked me why I stopped by. I then went off on her and told her that the kids told me about her telling them she was their real mom, and told her that she is delusional if she thinks that she is ever going to replace me as their mom. Hearing that must have set her off because her face completely dropped. She then started screaming at me that I am a terrible mother and telling me that she will love them better than I do once I'm gone. She ranted about how I don't do any of the things they like to do with them, and that I am always too busy working to care for them properly. I couldn't believe what she was saying to me. It was like a completely different person took over her body. Seeing her reaction and hearing that threat kind of freaked me out, so I got in my car and left. It hurt me deeply to think about the fact that I let my sweet baby spend a whole weekend alone with this clearly unstable woman. I went directly to my lawyer to get some help dealing with the paperwork I needed to complete to fight my ex for sole custody. Part of me wanted to file some sort of restraining order, but I was too overwhelmed at the time, and I knew Josh wouldn't fight me on it when I refused to bring the kids there in a couple of weeks. I know that I'm not wrong for wanting to protect my children. But am I the for confronting her? Should I have gone about this a different way? So it has been a few weeks since my first post, and I wanted to update those of you who are so helpful. I want to start by saying that I got my kids into therapy so that they can understand that Lola was not telling them the truth. It seems to have helped a lot, and my kids are starting to become their normal selves again. As for Josh and Lola, it seems this incident has caused the rift between them. Josh is not a bad guy at all and is willing to get Lola some professional help, but I guess she insisted that there is nothing wrong with her. Her unwillingness to get help caused Josh to break off their engagement and end their relationship. I feel a bit bad about the whole situation because I never meant to break them up. The kids did like her at first before the delusion started to consume her. I have decided to drop the fight for sole custody since Lola is out of the picture now, and Josh actually seems a lot less stressed without her around. I hope that she ends up getting the help she needs eventually, but either way, she will not be coming anywhere near my children ever again. I have an update for you all that I thought some of you might want to hear. Recently, my parents took the kids on a weekend trip out of town. While they were gone, my ex stopped by to bring me some of his mom's scones that he knows I love dearly. While he was here, we ended up talking about the whole situation, and he opened up about how foolish he was to date and get engaged so soon, and how all he ever wants when he thinks of the future is me. One thing led to another, and we ended up sleeping together. It was honestly so nice to be with him again. It felt like home. We ended up spending the entire weekend together, and we decided to start dating again to see where it goes. I am feeling a range of emotions, and I know that Josh is too. I think the time that we have spent apart gave us a chance to heal a lot. I don't see my third baby when I look at him anymore. I just see all the love we have for each other and the love we both have for our other two precious babies. I'm really hoping that perhaps we can grow closer and maybe one day even consider being together again. He has always been the love of my life, and I'm so glad that we spent the weekend together. Even if nothing comes of it, I think it really helped us in so many ways. And we will have a much easier time connecting and communicating in the future. A lot of you were interested to know what happened to Lola, so I figured I would make another update, especially because I got some news yesterday. So to start, it has been about 8 months since the original incident, and Josh and I have officially gotten back together. He moved back into the house about a month after my last update. We've been so happy since we reconciled, and the kids are even happier that Mommy and Daddy are back together. But the more important part of the update is that last night when I was out with some friends, I bumped into Lola. I tried to avoid eye contact at all costs, but she ended up seeing me and came over to our table. She said hello and immediately began apologizing for her behavior back then. I was relieved that she wasn't trying to start any drama. She said that she sees now that she was very unstable at that time and told me that about a month after Josh broke up with her, she finally got the help she needed. I was very glad that she was able to get better and even happier for her when she told me that she's pregnant. Apparently, she met someone through her group therapy during recovery, and they experienced a miracle. She is already quite a few months along at this point, and it is looking like it's going to be a successful pregnancy with a healthy baby. My best friend, female, 29, just got engaged. I, female, 28, I'm so ecstatic for her. I was one of the first to know and have made a big fuss for her, got her a gift, went for dinner, etc. I also helped to book a venue for some engagement drinks for her to celebrate with a wider friendship group. However, on the days just before the engagement drinks, I received news that my grandmother went into hospital with a heart attack, now recovering, and my grandfather had gone into hospital with a stroke and is yet to wake up. In addition to this, on the way to engagement drinks, I was followed out of the tube and harassed by a man who wouldn't leave me alone until I eventually ran away. This also shook me, so I was quite flustered when arriving to the venue for the engagement drinks. With the news of my family's ill health and other personal issues, broke up with someone only the previous week, I was quite downtrodden. I still had a smile on my face on arrival and chatted with everyone. I also made the group toast to the happy couple. However, I was much quieter than I usually am and mostly observed the night while sat at the table. I'm typically more vivacious and lively. I didn't mention the events of that week on the night, although the bride-to-be is aware of, having spoken earlier that day, but as I said, I was quiet and probably looked rather somber at what is meant to be a happy celebration. The next day, my best friend and bride-to-be launched into a tirade of saying I wasn't my usual self and how she thought I didn't even want to be there. I admitted I wasn't my usual self and apologized for any upset it may have caused, but also defended the fact that I'd gone to celebrate. And just because I have something going on, it doesn't eradicate my happiness for her. But it had just been a rough day, so I was a bit quieter than usual. She wouldn't accept the apology and was very upset and disappointed that I couldn't just put everything to the side for a few hours to celebrate her big moment, and suggested anyone would feel the same in her shoes. And I meant to be her best friend, and it didn't seem like I wanted to be. There. I have assured her it's not the case and apologized a number of times at how it made her feel, but her response is everyone has stuff going on, and they would bury it for the night to happily celebrate. She proclaimed that I'm not a victim just because I'm going through a rough time. I've acknowledged I don't think I am and that my only crime was being a bit quieter than usual. Note, some of her other friends only showed for half an hour, so only 6 friends remained of the 12 invited. Yet she admitted she hasn't raised her disappointment with them. I'm a bit shell-shocked by the interaction and don't know where I go from here. I've never experienced contention in my friendships. Absolutely NTA. You even told her ahead of time what was going on. A real friend will understand that sometimes we're not our chipper selves, even when stuff like that isn't going on. It's totally understandable when you're going through stuff. Her telling you you're not a victim really calls into question her character. You were there for her. She should be there for you. Yeah, NTA, definitely not. Sounds like she's annoyed about other stuff, and this is displaced aggression. Or maybe she really is just so self-absorbed that she expects you to make her the center of your universe. Can't say with more context, but given what you're already coping with, she should be grateful that you not only turned up but helped her out with planning, etc. also. Her feelings are not your responsibility. You have apologized, and it was heartfelt, not sarcastic or obligatory. I would keep my distance from her for a while. Focus on the other things happening in your life. She doesn't get to dictate your feelings or behavior or tell you what's important to you. You did your best, and if that's not good enough for her, well, tough. She'll lose a good friend. NTA. If you don't get a profuse apology and an offer of support dealing with what you're going through in the very near future, I would severely limit your involvement with her and the wedding because this does not bode well for what dealing with her as a bride is going to be like. I recently kicked my sister out of our home for the way she reacted to a photo of my husband and his first wife. I met him a few months after she died in a car accident, got married 2 years after that. We've been together for 6 years. He was devastated when she died. I told him I never expected to replace her in any way and considered myself another chapter in his life. I was warmly accepted into the family and his circle of friends. My sister recently fell on hard times, lost her job, apartment, and so on. We took her in. My husband has always had a home office. My sister was poking around the house when he was out and discovered a photo of him and his first wife among the framed pictures he has. It's not their wedding photo or anything, just a typical cute couple photo. It's the only printed photo of her in the house, taken a few months before her accident. They didn't have kids, so pics are all he has. There are a lot more photos of us. I was reading on the couch when my sister came stomping into the room, holding the framed photo. She angrily asked, "Why do you let him keep a photo of his ex in your house?" I replied, "First, it's our house, and second, she's not an ex. She died in an accident and was his wife for 8 years. She was a huge part of his life. He keeps that one photo out." She replied, "An ex is anyone you've slept with who's not in the picture anymore." Me, "No, that's not how it works. She died. Sis, doesn't matter. So what if she got pasted by a truck? An ex is an ex. You shouldn't be letting him keep any pictures." Me, "You're being extremely disrespectful to me and my husband right now. You're a guest in this house. Walk back those comments and apologize now." Sis, "Why should I apologize? How can you let him keep pictures of an ex toy? I never knew his first wife, but I know how much she meant to him. I know how much he loves me." My sister talking about her like that insulted him and, by extension, me. Not to mention how disrespectful she was being to a poor woman who died young. I said, "Get your crap and leave." I didn't care that it was November in Minnesota or that she didn't have anywhere else to go or any money. She had been beyond disrespectful to me and my husband over a single small photo. Me, "If you're worried about sleeping in your car this winter, you should have thought of that before insulting the people sheltering you." I made sure she was gone before my husband even got home. He was shocked when I told him what had happened since he'd always had a polite, neutral relationship with her. He thanked me for having his back. I got a call from my mom telling me it was my responsibility to take care of my sister. I laughed and hung up. I've been asked by a few people how I could basically destroy my relationship with my sister over this, and have replied that she was the one who did so. AITA for how I handled this? NTA. You didn't kick her out over a photo. You kicked her out for being disrespectful, rude, and absolutely inconsiderate. You're right about your husband's late wife. She's not an ex, and nor is she a toy. She was your husband's wife. To say that she was a toy was just purely disrespectful to the poor woman's memory. What does your sister expect? For your husband to forget all about his late wife? They didn't break up. One of them died. It's not an ex situation. As you said, you're a new chapter. That doesn't mean you burn the old chapter. It's okay to appreciate the present while appreciating the past. You did the right thing. NTA. Your sister is, though. To start with, she's poking around your house, which is rude out of the gate. Then she has the nerve to be offended by a picture that is literally none of her business, and she has to double down to be even more of a rude, insensitive, You were absolutely right to defend your husband and his late wife. She was totally offline, and she kicked herself out. If your mom is so worried, she can take your sister in.